people are still living it. They're still dealing with the aftermath. It felt discordant. It was the wrong message.
Hello and welcome. I'm Dr. Jennifer Kang here at the Restore Healthcare Project. I'm just going to remind you that we'd love for you to like, follow, subscribe, and give us a 5-star review. I'm here again today with Dr. Mike Vaughan, who is a general practitioner from England, here in the studio in California with me, enjoying his insights. It's so great to kind of hear the parallels and the similarities and the differences from one healthcare system to another, and to be able to share around a common center point, which is Jesus.
Absolutely. It's my pleasure to be here. And I've been enthralled by your podcast, so I'm just so grateful to be able to add a bit to it. Thank you for asking me.
Thank you. Well, just give us a little reminder of your background and what you do on a day-to-day.
So I'm a managing partner at an NHS general practice surgery. So that means that I run a two-sided practice serving 13,000 patients with a small team of partners who own the building, own the business and run it, and then a whole host of amazing co-laborers who keep the masses at bay and keep them alive. So that's what I do.
And you've been a general practitioner for some years, and you say you continue to enjoy it.
Yeah, I do. Yes, I've been. I qualified in 1990 as a medic, and became a principal in general practice in 1994, which didn't take me very long. I was always in a hurry, and I've been doing it ever since. But fundamentally, I just love people. I just find people fascinating, and their stories fascinating, and I love the opportunity to help them and to come alongside them. And that doesn't go old. No, it doesn't go old.
You're somebody who's very energized by being with people in your practice. And there's a lot going on right now in our healthcare sphere around burnout. Were you ever vulnerable to burnout? You love what you do?
Yeah, I mean, I think I would say no. If you'd asked me, for many years, I would say it's stressful at times, and I don't like the stress. I don't like getting it wrong, but fundamentally, I've always enjoyed it. But I think it's interesting. This very month is the 5-year anniversary of COVID.
Yes.
And it was brought to my mind. I'm here in California with my wife. Her birthday's the 13th of March. My birthday's the 27th of March. And 5 years ago, Sarah had a normal birthday celebration. 1 week later, in the UK, 20th of March, we went into lockdown, and the world stopped.
It did.
So my 27th of March birthday was a massive difference from hers. And the check-in lady noticed we're both March birthdays and commented on it, and it just brought it all back. So 5 years ago. So
that was a hard season for the world.
Absolutely.
But I think healthcare professionals in particular.
Absolutely. It was, everyone has their own unique war. It was a war.
Yeah.
And everyone has their own unique war. For me, I was the first battle was, I was over 50. I was on ACE inhibitors, which at the beginning they thought was an exacerbating factor. Yeah. I was male, which is an exacerbating factor. I had blood pressure problems, so I had 4 strikes. I had colleagues who were Afro-Caribbean, and that was a 5th strike. But I thought, okay, that's interesting. And admittedly, general practice is not necessarily a frontline thing, but you're going to see people who don't know they've got COVID or whatever. So I knew it was highly likely that at some point I was going to be exposed to it. There were no vaccines to begin with, and shortly after we started doing the vaccines, I was at a vaccine center. And we had a Superspreader event. Do you remember those? What?
Oh, yes.
We had almost the entire vaccination staff go down with COVID.
Yeah.
Because someone was a superspreader, and we all got it. And I had my first vaccine, but it hadn't taken into effect. And I found myself one night, 2:00 in the morning, my SATs were dropping. I was in the spare bedroom because I didn't want to infect the family. And I actually had to look up the admission criteria for myself to say, have I now reached the point I need to call myself an ambulance?
Wow. And that was early on.
That was early on. Yeah. So I got through that.
So many healthcare workers went through that. And there's so many stories that I've heard of just a personal trauma of, I need to step up in this moment. This is when the world needs me.
Yeah.
And I have a family, and I know that I'm putting myself at risk. Yeah. I remember having those crises of the mind of, should I take my clothes off outside the house before I come in? I didn't want to bring it home to my kids or to my husband who had risk factors, and that it's anguish that we went through.
People left home. Some people lived in hotels and stuff because they just didn't want to risk their family. And so, at 2:00 in the morning, I thought I could die. Okay, this is interesting. But the thing actually I found hardest was I found God. I don't know about you, but God seemed very distant. Church stopped. Yeah. It was all online. And I know you could, but I just didn't find it really helpful. Connection was lost. It was very individual,
Yeah.
And then, I started to join some of the church groups that they were running, but they were all on furlough. So they were all going, oh, isn't this great? I'm just having such a wonderful time with Jesus. I'm just reading the Bible all day. I'm just resting in this period. This is just a beautiful time of rest and peace. I'm
You're like, I have no way to relate to that experience. We're working double what we worked before.
Exactly. And at the beginning I was on these, I was involved in commissioning healthcare. So I was doing things where I was on committees where we discussed what happens when you run out of body, because at the beginning we didn't know how COVID was going to go. We didn't know how bad it was going to get. So we talked about what happens when there's no morgue space, which happened definitely in the US. Yeah. What happens when you run out of body bags? What happens when there's civil disobedience? And things that used to take months of diligent planning and care took days. I was part of a small team that said, it was Thursday night, and they phoned me and said, we need you to write the protocol for hot sites. So, which is where people send the people they thought had COVID to be assessed. We need you to sort out the protocol for setting up these hot sites.
A whole protocol
for the whole of Kent. Okay, by when? Monday. So we had 3 days, and millions of pounds and thousands of lives were dependent on getting this right. And you had 3 days to bang it out. Now, it was an amazing team, and in some ways an amazing moment, but that was my world.
Yeah.
And it's beautiful. I'm just resting in the Lord. I've read so many books, and and I got a spirit of irritation and resentment came up in me, and I thought, I can't do this. I literally cannot be in these groups. It was all online, but I can't listen. I want to throttle someone, and it's not, and you almost want to roll it. Things like, right, let me tell you what it's really like. Let me tell you what it's like to see people dying, or what, people, you're dealing with people who can't say goodbye to their loved ones because there's a window in the way. And I thought that's not very blissful. So
they're not going to appreciate that. No, they don't want to hear it.
No, they don't want to hear it. So I withdrew. And I found I couldn't find God either. I don't think God went anywhere, but I just couldn't find a hook anymore. There was only one thing that helped me. I'm sure that it's an American song. It's called, I think it's called "The Blessing Over Here."
Yes.
Carrie Job and Cody Carnes. In the UK, they did a thing called the UK Blessing, and they commissioned 50 churches. And what they did was each one sang the song, but they edited it. So each church sang a portion of the line. And it was so beautiful. Just people in their rooms, just worshiping God through this amazing song.
Yeah.
And towards the end, there's a amazing Afro-Caribbean guy who raps a blessing over it, a literal blessing. I just listened to that song over and over and over. That was my worship. I just didn't want to listen to anything else. It was
like water to you.
Yes. Yeah. I just had it on repeat. That's all I could do.
Yeah.
But it's even now, it just brought me to tears. And I thought, because there was truth in it and there was hope.
Yeah.
Let's talk about.
You were encountering trauma and death and weight to such a depth that couldn't be answered yet.
No. But there was hope in the song. They are such a song for a season. So that was partly what got me through. But I came out of COVID, and I was dry. I was damaged, hurt.
Was work hard at that point?
It was, because everyone was damaged. Everyone, so much psychological, psychosocial stuff.
Yeah.
And you're hearing it time after time and time. Most of my day was listening to people telling some sobs. I don't mean that lightly, a sob story about some traumatic thing they were going
lost
through.
People, and then we were dealing with the aftermath of social isolation.
Yeah.
And so then we were dealing with this huge uptick in mental health distress.
Yeah.
And we were still in trauma ourselves, and yet trying to help people in trauma.
Absolutely. And the waiting lists were off the charts because no one was doing anything during COVID. So all the morbidity was out there. People were struggling with stuff because, and in the UK, the waiting list suddenly just 6 months, a year to get done.
And then in my office here, we had the American population, maybe half of them really thought COVID was a conspiracy. It felt like it was half. It probably wasn't. But, and they were in my office screaming about the requirement to wear a mask. And I'm like, I've literally just been in the hospital with somebody who's been dying, and you're yelling about how you can't wear a mask for 30 minutes to be in my office. And it was just that added trauma.
The aggression. The aggression. And I love my church. It's a wonderful organization. But when the lockdowns ended, they went full bore back to everything's normal. Let's start signing up again.
That's what all of society wanted. It wasn't real quite yet.
Yeah, but it's sort of, and they were hurting financially, and they wanted to get so get back on the rotors, get back doing parking, and get back doing teas and coffee rotors. Let's get back to it's gone, it's over, it's past.
Healthcare professionals, I'm so excited to be able to connect with you on issues regarding spiritual needs in healthcare. We want to partner together to see some of the ruined places of healthcare culture restored by hope. Follow us at restorehealthcareproject.org and like and subscribe to our YouTube channel and social media.
Was the message. And I thought, no, it's not. People are still living it. They're still dealing with the aftermath. It felt discordant. It was the wrong message for the wrong time. And so I still disengaged. I couldn't go back. I thought, I can't, this is the wrong message.
How did you get out?
Well, I'm part of an organization called Heaven in Healthcare. It's worth a look if you haven't come across it.
For sure, which we love.
And actually, I was asked to do. God just dropped something in me. I knew I wasn't alone. I knew that my fellow colleagues were hurting as well, and God just reminded me of a blessing He gave me years ago, which is an insight into Luke 15, the prodigal son. And particularly, I was given a very practical activation on the 3 gifts of the Father, which I'd been doing before COVID. But I just knew I had to take almost a leaf out of that book and take the healthcare professionals through a process. And so that's what I did. So just to give you a little bit of background, so everyone knows the prodigal son. Everyone knows, so he, the son, the younger son of the elder of the village, decides, give me my inheritance now, and he goes off. And the Bible says, a lovely word, it says he squandered the wealth, and we don't know what is it, but women and drugs and parties and all sorts. It's the inference, and he ends up finding himself looking after pigs, which for a Jew is like me. He's lost his identity. He's lost everything now. I'm now a pig servant, and he decides to go back. And most of you will know the story very well. But the father runs out and greets him, and he gives him 3 gifts, and those gifts are so special, so special. So the first gift he gives is his robe. He puts a robe around him.
Yeah.
Now, I want to read a passage, Zechariah 3, verse 3. Now Joshua was dressed in filthy clothes as he stood before the angel. And the angel said to those who were standing before him, take off his filthy clothes. Then he said to Joshua, see, I have taken away your sin, and I will put fine garments upon you. Now, the Greek word for that is mantle or robe of state. When Jesus told that parable, he knew that all the Jews listening to him wouldn't understand that this robe was synonymous with forgiveness.
Wow.
Isaiah 61, for he has clothed me with garments of salvation and arrayed me in a robe of his righteousness. And I felt awful inside. People turn to stuff to get them through. People turn to all sorts of things, alcohol or drugs or porn or sex or adultery
or raging at their colleagues.
Grumpy or irritable or just being nasty. Or just the complete loss of compassion. They felt guilt about an absence of compassion anymore, mercy.
Yeah, that is something that's described in compassion fatigue, is just even this spiral of guilt and shame about not having compassion.
They just couldn't
like
care
finding
anymore.
yourself without it.
Yeah. People ran out of hope. They ran out of care. And I knew that people carried that in themselves.
You were experiencing it.
I was experiencing it. I was front of the queue.
Yeah.
And so at this Heaven and Healthcare event, I gave everyone a piece of paper and a clipboard. And I said, I want you to write down the names of all the people that you loved and lost, and your colleagues that you loved and lost. And I want you to write down everything you did to get yourself through to this point. Just write it all down. Hold nothing back. No one's going to read it. Just write it all down before God.
I remember being present at that session that you led. And I remember just feeling this incredible release from resentment. And I think in that moment, I realized that I had a list in my heart of all the people I'd lost, whether it was patients, and there were colleagues that died from COVID, from serving patients. And I had developed a resentment from all the resistance I had felt from my American patients who were struggling with this, right? Yeah. And I had developed a resentment that no one cared.
Yes.
About these people who gave themselves. And I had
and their lives.
Right. And I had held that against my patients, right? And so just feeling that rush of, I have not done well in processing what was pain. And I have taken it out. I have argued with patients about various things because I was so resentful that no one cared.
Yeah.
Or that was my perception, right?
Yeah.
And I remember that release of being able to just, wow, it actually matters what we've lost.
Yes.
But it matters that we don't stay there.
Exactly. And what God does, just like with Joshua, he wraps that with a robe of righteousness. So what I got people to do was, I had a big bin, and I said, I want you to walk up with this piece of paper and before God, tear it up.
Yeah.
And I will shred it. I will not look at it. This will be shredded, and tear it up before him. And then we took communion because the blood of Jesus covers us, covers our sin and shame. And then because of the time, we then just had a group of people who I know and trust, and they just released, they prayed over everyone just to restore them. But what I wanted to do in a another heaven healthcare thing is because the gifts are 3 parts.
Mm-hmm.
The second gift is vital after you're restored. That's just base 1. That's just to get you to base 1. Because then the Father gives the Son a ring. Now, in Jewish circles, the ring signifies sonship and authority. You'll see in the Old Testament how when you wanted to do a deal, you used the Father's ring to signify that's a done deal. So if you were a son of the Father, you wore the ring of the family. There's a brilliant bit. If you ever see Ben-Hur, there's a bit where a Roman consul adopts Judah Ben-Hur as his own, and there's a ceremony. When I give this talk, I actually show the clip. There's a ceremony where he says that the procedures of adoption are complete. You are my son, and he gives him a ring.
Yeah.
To say, you're my son, you're my daughter. But it carries authority as well, because in Genesis 41, it says, so when Joseph was empowered by Pharaoh to build the storehouses, Pharaoh says, I hereby put you in charge of the whole land of Egypt. And Pharaoh took his signet ring from his finger and put it on Joseph's finger. He gives him authority. So when the Father gives the Son the ring, he's saying, you are not just my son, but I restore you the authority that you have.
Yeah. Wow.
Which is just amazing. And that's what God wants to do to all of us. He wants to say, you're a son, you're a daughter of the King. Now, when God took me through this process, he made me feel I had a ring on my index finger for a long time, which I didn't understand. And I thought, I need to get myself a ring to signify this, and I have it today. And my wife, Sarah, bless her, said, yeah, let's do that. We need to do that. But does it need to be on your ring finger? Because that's where I felt it. He said, does it need to be on your ring finger? It's very trendy to have it on your little finger. And I said, but that's a finger I felt him put it on. And if you look it up, ring fingers are synonymous with royalty. If you look at kings and queens in England, they wear a ring on their index finger. And God when he gave it to me, gave it on my ring finger. And I think that's what he did with the prodigal son.
Wow.
Because he's saying, you're my royal son. You're my royal daughter. You have authority. And then the last gift he gives him is sandals. And in Jewish culture, if you wore sandals, it means you don't work. Slaves were barefoot. Children of the king wore sandals because they don't work. And that's the key bit. We don't have to work. Our identity is freely given. We're restored. We're made sons and daughters of the King. And out of that, we have no obligation to work. We have no obligation to do anything at all. We don't have to do the prayer rota. We don't have to do the parking rota. We don't have to pray for patients. We don't have to do anything because we are, by birth, our birth in Jesus, we are the prince and princess of the kingdom. We are the sons and daughters of the King. And that can never be taken away.
Our identity is given and not earned.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So we earn nothing from God. We get given it all.
Yeah.
And out of that rest and that peace, we enjoy his favor. Now, if I was doing the talk, I would offer. Well, I actually have some here. I carry them around. These are brass olives. They're little. They look like gold rings.
Yes.
But what I would do is I'd invite people to come forward at the end of this talk, and I would look them in the eye. And of the team I bring, and I'd say, I look you in the eye and say, you are the son of the King, or you are the daughter of the King. And as I do that, I put the ring on their finger and I pronounce the Father's blessing over them.
I think that you have found a key that the world is not knowing about currently. That's really the answer of the Father to clinician burnout. I think we're scurrying around trying to create all sorts of wellness programs to answer these needs and these cries and these deficiencies and these pains. And we're not yet really fixing it.
No.
And I think you and I both believe our good Father has every good and perfect thing that we need. And you're describing this process he took you through and reinvigorated in you that brought you out of this place of trauma and just not a good place. That's how most people describe burnout as a really terrible feeling. And it does make you feel powerless and helpless. But you're talking about finding the restoration of that lifted from you, that shame.
He sees it all.
Unexplainable.
Yeah, he sees it all. Everything you've ever done, he sees it all, and he wraps it with his robe of righteousness. And then he says, you are and always will be a son or a daughter of the King. Your identity is fixed in heaven, cannot be removed, is irrevocable, no matter what you do. And his encouragement is, don't work. Didn't call you to work. Called you to rest and freedom.
I think that's a message that so many of us really, really need. I think there's some that have just kind of been burdened under the shame of, not only did I run out of compassion and energy, but I coped with it in ways that I'm not proud of.
Exactly.
And I have developed resentment, or I have, there's just lists of things to be ashamed about. And it prevents you from stepping out. But you're describing this beautiful invitation from the Father. Come home.
Absolutely. And the welcome is assured. He's waiting for you. He's running. The Father runs. And in that culture, to run was shameful because you'd have to lift up the heavy skirts he'd wear and he'd show his feet.
Undignified.
Yeah. He's so keen to meet back with you. He'll throw his dignity aside because he wants to love you, accept you for who you are, and empower you. Once you know who you are, you're changed. You're never the same.
Yeah. I think it would be really meaningful if you would actually speak to the health professionals who are listening or watching what we're discussing today, and release that Father restoration and blessing to them.
Oh, will do. I'd love to do that. So, you are the daughter or the son of a king. You have been destined by God to be his daughter, his son. He made you all that you are. He proclaimed you that you are his forever. You're his prince, you're his princess for all eternity. You will never lose that. He will never leave you. He will never forsake you. He will always be yours, and you will always be his. For now, until the end of time, you are his and he is yours, and he loves you and requires nothing of you. He sees everything you've done, covers it with Jesus' blood, and says, I need nothing from you. I just love you and accept you, and always know that you are his, and you are his daughter, his son, and he is with you always.
So powerful. Thank you for releasing that.
It's my pleasure. It's always my pleasure.
And we call all the burnt out ones home to find the gifts of the Father that restore fully in ways that we can never do for ourselves. Thanks, Mike. Thanks for
Thank you. It's my pleasure.
Your time. I've been here with Dr. Mike Vaughan, general practitioner from England. We've been talking about the ring thing and the restoration of the Father. I'm Dr. Jennifer Kang, and this is the Restore Healthcare Project. Hey, Healthcare Tribe. I hope that you have been impacted by what I've brought through this podcast. I also want you to know about opportunities to give back through my nonprofit, Selah Health International. We work to support projects for women and children of vulnerable populations around the world. You can learn more and donate on our website, selahhealthinternational.org.